I'm supposed to talk about more than I plan to talk about. So I still have to squeeze it into a few minutes. So if I can, if you can hear me clearly, I'm usually loud, but the notion that the missionary effort, and this is linked up to, you know, the mission houses, the missionary effort is more successful in Hawaii than probably anywhere in the world, in the impact that it has on the character and the form of a nation. And so that history is incredible. But history gets so blurry, and the success of that mission in modern times, really, the missionary success over decades and decades becomes sort of this huge force where people feel like the missionaries got off the boat barking orders, right? They just kind of came and took over. They got off the boat and said, stop dancing, put on clothes, don't sleep around. And it's so not the case. And so this project really allows us to look back at look closely at that history again, and look at it, what's the wonder of it. The revitalization that kicked off in the 70s, and Larry is a pioneer there, Lolena, a pillar of the house, all that team that played earlier on, these were the leaders for decades. And they still sing pretty well too. But Mahalia Oko Puakea, because of the success of the Hawaiian language revitalization, it dropped speakers and people who knew Hawaiian in places so that after 20 years of Hawaiian revitalization, there were people looking at things that no one had looked at for 100 years. So all of these resources started to come to light. You must know about the Hawaiian language newspapers. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you typed Hawaiian language newspapers. We ran a project with 7,500 people volunteered in 12 countries to type newspapers. Only about 2,500 of them actually finished a page, but some of them did hundreds of pages. But it opened up the Hawaiian language side of this history. Part of the reason that the missionary success is so sort of one-sided is we rely on the English records for that. In the last 15 years, the Hawaiian language records have come out. And it really shows what Tom talks about all the time is the collaboration that is happening. The project, because the missionaries arrive here, and they're a really remarkable bunch of people. They're scholars. They've got a dignity that goes with the religious enterprise that the Hawaiians recognize immediately. They're 40 years. Hawaiians have been playing with the rest of the world for 40 years by the time the missionaries get here. The missionaries aren't the first to the buffet, and most people have messed up the food already. So, and the missionaries almost, that first punch on the Thaddeus almost didn't get to land. I'm sure many of you know the story that Kamehameha said, yeah, send missionaries from England. So when they arrived from America, his son almost said, no, we'll wait for the pizza we ordered. You know, well, this isn't the group we asked for. But they end up staying, and the impact is immediate. They're the first outside group that doesn't want to take advantage of you one way or the other, get a hold of your goods, your food, or your daughter. They come with three really important things. They come with a set of skills that Hawaiians are really impressed with. Literacy they've been waiting for 40 years, basically. Because for 40 years, Hawaiians wanted everything on every ship that came, and they could get it. It was pretty easy to get. 2 pigs and maybe a place to live. You could trade for almost anything, but they couldn't get literacy. It was intangible. They wanted to learn to read and write, and there's proof they did. Kamehameha sets up a school for his sons in 1810. It doesn't work very well because Liho Liho and Keikuo Kalani aren't particularly good students, so it only lasts about a week or two. Kamehameha he signs his names to letters, or his name Kamehameha. They want it, but nobody can really settle it down. The missionaries are the first group. They have the scholarly background, but they also have the patience and endurance. So that's part of the skill set. They also know how to sew, They can do all kinds. That's really the more important things that are attractive first. But the second thing is their pono. They have an interaction that is intentionally not taking advantage. It's not crude. They don't get drunk and throw up on the street. They, and they don't take advantage. They don't make a profit. So that pono actually is more attractive than religion. They start in on the skill set and the pono, and it's those two that lead Hawaiians into religion. But I have students who tell me, well, the missionaries brainwashed the Hawaiians. Well, then how dumb were the Hawaiians? And this project really opens up the move from learning to read and write, which was really a big drive, and advancing the pono, which is the new sort of virtue that everybody should be held to a standard. That led Hawaiians on a one-by-one. It's not a brainwashing. It's as people bought in, they became Christian. Not all of them did. You'll notice the 1840s, 20 years into the project, the missionaries are still complaining about all the people who didn't convert. So if it was a brainwashing effort, it wasn't that effective. But reading and writing starts immediately. And of course, the missionaries can only teach in English. So they're teaching English reading and writing. We're still playing with trying to open up that little window. There's a very short window of probably a couple of months where those who have learned to read and write in English suddenly start to just use those letters, how handy is that, to write Hawaiian. So I know I have a letter from Ka'ahumanu, 1822, so it's right after the one that Tom just mentioned as the first real Hawaiian letter. She's already totally fluent. She's spelling out all the gossip, she's giving orders, she's doing everything a queen should do. So, but the remarkable success here is that Hawaiians are given a new technology, and what they started to put down in writing, they are transitioning from a Stone Age, a very sophisticated Stone Age culture, into a very, very modern world. And now they're empowered to write all that and document it. So the first ones who knew how to write are writing down history that had been held orally for hundreds of years. And then writing becomes a national endeavor. It really becomes, Hawaii becomes more literate than America or England, because the two kings, actually Liho starts it, Kauikeoli kicks it off and says, mine will be a nation of literacy. When he said that, he could already read and write in both languages. So it's not he's saying we should learn to read and write. He's saying, let my people. And he made schools, and he made teachers, and he made a teachers' college, and that's what made this huge body of written material that in many ways lay dormant. Language revitalization made it accessible again. So we've been playing, now you can go on the web and search 750,000 pages worth of just newspapers. That has put a drive on. The Mission Houses is digitizing the most remarkable collection. There is the most wonderful collection of published materials and handwritten materials here, and they're working to make that public. So, yes, please do. Now, so in the course of this, I've been playing all over. I play with newspapers, I play with manuscripts, I play a lot with the written word, and I foster translation. Because as this material becomes available, the revitalization project has mostly been focused on fluency. But they were suffering the same lack of sort of historical knowledge as everybody else. So I could teach you grammar, but I really couldn't teach you who Kauikeoli's playmates were, for instance. So opening up this material has made all of that available. But a lot of the kids that we teach, and that includes me, have a really hard time reading material from 150 years ago. Partly it's in a little different language. Have you tried to read 200-year-old English? It's tricky. And then it's all these references to things that we don't know about. So the context is lost. So we've dedicated a lot of time to training people to work with that repository. So when Tom Woods came to me, I had launched a little project. I just get brain bursts, and so I wanted to do just letters. any of the letters, the early letters. I wanted to see when Hawaiians were given that technology, what did they write down? It would be like us studying, what did we do with email the first 10 years we had it? It didn't make us smarter, but it gave us a new place to express some piece of our life. Would that be an interesting topic to track? Well, that's what this would do, so I wanted to look at that. Tom heard about it, called me in and went, he said, I told you I wanted all the letters translated. We have a wonderful collection. I said, I know you do. We could do that. And I said, I could probably do that. He's talking 200 letters written by chiefs to the missionaries. And I said, I could probably do that, and I won't. Only because I invest myself now. I want to train the young people to be able to do that. I can do that. Because I've been a little bit off on the fringe the whole of the revitalization I was translating. And translation was sort of the enemy of revitalization. You know, in a lot of ways. It wasn't, don't translate it for people, make them learn Hawaiian. Well, 40 years into it, there's still going to be people that didn't learn Hawaiian. So we got to get them too. Dwayne Steele, actually, who fostered a lot of projects, and many of you know him. He came to me after we measured how big the repository was of the newspapers and how much manuscript material was there. He came one day and said, it's not about language, it's about knowledge. And he and I had dedicated ourselves, we made Hawaiian language books for schools. And he said, we got to keep doing what we do, but we have to do it bilingually. And I said, there aren't any translators. He said, that's what you can do, make translators. So we set up Awaiaulu in 2004, and we trained translators. So when Tom Woods asked me to do this, I said, no. But I will do it as a training project. If we can, and it's more expensive, but if we can fund 2 kids to sit at my hip while I do it, we'll do it. And so we launched a year ago. We meet 5 hours every week. They're all assigned letters. And in the course of it, some of you came to the presentation of Buddha Hope. In the course of this, I pulled in my 16-year-old godson, who's an immersion student, very fluent in the Hawaiian language, knows nothing of history beyond last year, basically. You know, he's 16, come on. But he's got a good mindset about it. So we pulled him in to shadow the project. So we have the 3 of them. They're all assigned 5, sometimes 10 letters in a week. They do a draft translation, then we all sit together and line by line explain why this has to be this. This is this. This is who this is. And this is how you answer that question. If you don't know the answer, where do you go? So this has really been a wild year, a wonderful year. And we're just wrapping up our project now. And so that's what I'm actually supposed to read you some letters. So they said, pick a letter. Well, I have 200. It was like walking through Tiffany's. You know, going, what do you want? What do you want? So that notion of they appreciated the skill set and they appreciated the pono. And that led to an appreciation of Christianity. So I actually have 2 letters, if I may. I don't mean to make the night run too long. And I broke them up so they're a little easier. A few lines in Hawaiian, a few lines in English, okay? This is written by Kalani Moku, who was Kamehameha I's right-hand man. He becomes really the second in command. He helps Liho Liho run the kingdom. And when Liho Liho goes off to England, he's who's put in charge with Ka'aumanu. He is the whip in the islands. So this is 1826. Liho Liho has died. Kauikeole is on the throne, but he's only about 10. So this guy's still running the show. And he says, Aloha oa and Mr. Bingham, and he spells it out. Usually these are Binamus and Kamalanis and whatnot. Ea ko mana uya oko e ka poe mikionale. Ka poe mikionale kumu amako. Ke hae aku ne uya oko. Aleo ike ko oko heva. Ina alai ike au I ko oko heva. Hae aku no uya oko. A ole. Greetings, Mr. Bingham. Here's my message to all of you, our missionary teachers. I'm telling you that I have not seen your wrongdoing. If I had seen you to be wrong, I would tell you all. No, you must all be good. Now this is important. E haawi mai o kou ia mākou I ka palapala. A o aku no mākou. A haawi mai o kou I ka olelo a kia kua ia mākou. A mālama no I mākou. Ua kapu no I ko mākou mau wahine. Ua o I ka olelo a kia kua. It says, give us literacy and we will teach it. And give us the word of God and we will heed it. Our women, now this is in the whole tangle with whale ships and prostitution, etc. Our women are prohibited, for we have learned the word of God. It makes a really important case here. We often hear of missionaries making laws and things. Missionaries didn't make laws. Aki mai nei no ka haole, hana ino I ho nei ko mako aina, ka haole o Maleka. Me ko Beretania. O huhu mai one I o kou. Na mākou ko o kou hewa. A ale na o kou. A ale na o kou haole no. It says, then foreigners come doing damage to our land. Foreigners of America and Britain. But don't be angry, for we are to blame for you being faulted. And it's not you foreigners, it's the other foreigners. Right? Is in multiple page because it's in Kupuna font. He says, "Eya no kupuna o maka olelo a Yehova. Wa haawi au I ko una au I ke kua. A me ko ukino, a me ko uuhana. Wa ho'olilo wau ya uiho I ekalesia no Yesu Christ. Here's my message. According to the words of Jehovah, I have given my heart to God, and my body and my spirit. I have devoted myself to the Church of Jesus Christ." Now that was big news coming from the lead. This is like Obama deciding to change religions. He nana I ho oko e Mr. Bingham I ko manao I ike oko. Ai make oko e pala aku ko manao ya Maleka I ke ali I o kako, aia o kou la. Aloha ke ali I o kako ma Maleka, aloha ia. Sain kalai moku. He says, have a look at this letter of mine, Mr. Bingham and Company. And if you see it and wish to send my message on to America, to our chief, who, it's not really clear from the context, the head of the ABCFM or the president, he's into chiefs. That is up to you. I'm assuming he means the president. He's got a king, America's got a chief. Greetings to the chief of ours in America. Regards to you all, Kalani Moku. This is one of the early letters, and it's not his first letter, but I think it's his most serious letter. I like that one. I have a shorter one. Heva was the high priest of Kamehameha. He was one of the kahuna under Kamehameha I. He's who officiated in all of the kapu ceremonies, and he was there at the overthrow of the kapu. So he's a piece of the old. And the letter that's on your table, there's an old letter, is the one I want to read. And it's a letter from him. It's 1830. And again, this notion of choosing to become Christian was an individual effort. And Hawaiians did it one by one. Here's a man, it's 1830. And this is his declaration. Maui, Lahaina, July 29, 1830. Aloha oa Emi Kamalena, that's Mr. Chamberlain. Ame Kamalena Vahine, Mrs. Chamberlain. Ea ko vahimana o ya oa. E ho'i ke hoa ku nei no wau ya oa ke aloha ana mai o ke kua yahu. Yahu e hele nei. Ke hele nei no ho'i au. Me ka hopo hopo, me ka makau aku I ke kua. I ka uhewa o ka una au. Oia kai I ke mai yahu. He oia I o ke aloha o ke keiki a ke kua. No ko uvahimana o no I ha'i aku e iau ya oa. Aloha na hoa hanau a paulo a malaila. Heva. Now, we didn't include an English translation for you guys. But this is what he wrote. Greetings to you, Mr. Chamberlain, and to Mrs. Chamberlain. This is my short message to you. I testify to you about the grace God bestows upon me as I go on. I walk in fear and awe of God for the wrongs of my heart, for he is the one who knows me. The love of the Son of God is true indeed. It is my own volition, it is of my own volition that I tell this to you. Regards to you and to all the members of the church. Heba Heba. Died a Christian. I had to pick from among some of the most remarkable letters, but I couldn't bear to read you a 4-page letter or an 8-page letter, even though some of these are just they're windows into a time. The history that we've received in the last 100 years has mostly relied upon the English reference that's available. Suddenly we're opening up, and it's because the language is alive that we're able to open up the whole big block of the Hawaiian language material that paralleled that the whole time. And I really feel it's projects like this that make our black and white picture of the past become full color. So I'm really excited to be a piece of it. I'm really delighted that the Mission Houses has dedicated so much energy to making these resources available, and I'm setting you free for the evening.